Okay, guys. Of course, before you leave a negative comment, listen to what I have to say, because there's only so many words you can sum up in a title. So, as far as Trump goes, how do I put this? The best way to put it, am I voting for Trump? No. Am I voting against Sanders or Clinton? Yes. So, it's not necessarily I'm voting for Trump, I'm voting against Sanders or Clinton. And I'll get to that in a bit. I'll get you my opinions on Sanders and Clinton. However, first off, why do I not really support Trump? I guess I'm for him as the lesser of all the evils, but my problem here, he sees the problems, I think, in the U.S. economy, but not the right solutions. And there's two specifically I'm thinking about. The first one being currency devaluation, currency manipulation that he talks about that the Chinese are using against us. And I'll get into why I disagree with that. And the second is putting tariffs on imports, which I think would hurt us. So, first off, the currency manipulation. Trump claims that the Chinese, and that's not just Trump, there's plenty of people out there, but the Chinese are devaluing their currency, and because they have a weaker currency, their imports are cheaper, and therefore they can underbid us on goods. And to some point, that's correct. Now, let's say that we were to weaken our currency, right? Why would that be bad for us? Well, why is it bad anywhere else? You see, if I go to Mexico and I have $50 right now, that $50 converted is roughly 500 pesos. They have a weaker currency than we do, right? The Mexican peso is much weaker than the dollar, therefore it takes 500 Mexican pesos to equal $50 US. So if I go into Mexico, I can buy things much cheaper, right? Having a strong currency in a nation with a weak currency allows me to buy a lot more. Again, it takes 500 pesos to equal to 50 US dollars. I have more purchasing power. I have a stronger currency. They have a weaker currency, and as a result, I'm able to buy more than I would here, right? And I mean, hotel rooms, meals, alcohol, cigars, whatever you want to get is pretty much cheaper. If not, pretty close to the same. Their imports are kind of expensive because, of course, they import them, but what they make there is pretty cheap. They're cheaper than in the U.S. Another example is the Philippines. When I was in the Philippines, roughly it was $20 US equaled roughly 1,000 Filipino pesos. That's kind of the way I measured it when I was there. Pretty much how I went about that. Now, because their currency was much weaker, I was in the Philippines and I was able to get a 4-star hotel for 2 weeks, and that cost me $500, right? $500. And another, that's one thing. Then I was with family, or the in-laws, and there was 8 of us there. And I paid for dinner at a fancy restaurant. I'm not sure how it would compare, maybe Driscoll or something, or just a step under, but somewhere around there. You see the way everybody was dressed. You had people outside trying to sell paintings and all kinds of goods, and the security running them off. You could see that it was for people that had money. And 8 people, dinner, we had dessert, and I was the only one that drank beer. It was kind of weird. They don't drink beer when they eat, but, but anyway, I took care of about 8 people. I guess it didn't really count. I bought somebody else a beer. we were joking with, and yeah, we had a joke. I'm like, yeah, I got him a beer. There were some Chinese people there in the Philippine restaurant. Anyway, but 8 people, and it cost me in U.S. dollars just over $80, right? So, in a fancy restaurant, bought 90 with a really good tip, bumping it up, it was 82, 83, something like that, but, left about $90 altogether. You try going to a fancy restaurant here in the U.S. and doing that for 8 people, right? You're looking at hundreds of dollars, easy. Why? Because in the Philippines, they have a weak currency, and I had a stronger currency, so I could do a lot more there than I could do here, right? Beer was cheap. I think it was about 50 cents, the cheapest, sometimes up to $1 if you went to 7-Eleven, right? Dirt cheap. We're in the hotel. I go downstairs. There's more family coming over, and I go down to the 7-Eleven. I come back with 2 bags of beer, and they cost me under $1 each, no tax, right? Cheap as can be. Well, I was able to get all that. Strong currency. If you were to weaken the currency, well, I wouldn't be able to do all that. Reverse it. Do the Mexicans come here to buy goods? Like on vacation with legal paperwork. Of course, illegal is one thing, but legally. Ones with money, they come in here to buy stuff. No. When somebody goes to a country where the currency's weak, you get a lot more. People go to Mexico. I know people that try to go and get antibiotics and stuff like that, get dental work done and stuff like that. It's much, much cheaper. The dollar goes a longer way. So, you weaken your currency, you impoverish the people. You take away the purchasing power of their money. It takes more money to buy the same things, and they're worse off than they were before. So, people say, well, we'll be able to export because we'll have cheaper goods. Okay, there's a problem with that. You see, we don't make very much here. And what we do assemble here in the U.S., well, lots of the components are imported. If we have weak currency, those imports are going to be more expensive. And therefore, the finished product that you use those expensive import parts is going to be more expensive, right? And a weakened currency, it's going to be that much harder. So that's why I disagree with currency devaluation or manipulation, as you call it, which quantitative easing, the Federal Reserve printing money, that's exactly what that is. Prices going up is not prices going up. It's the purchasing power of the dollar going down, right? It's taking more dollars to buy the same thing, right? You look at the stock market, it's up. Why? Because it takes more dollars to buy the same thing. You see gasoline going back up. Why? Because, well, it takes more dollars to buy the same thing. That's what happens when you weaken your currency. The other problem with the Trump platform is going to be, in my opinion, tariffs. We don't make anything here. If you were to increase, actually that's what it is, a price increase by tariffs. If you put a tariff tax, import tax, on an item, you're effectively increasing the price of that item. You have a $10 item, and then you put a 50% tariff or whatever the hell it may be. I don't know if it'd be that high or 40 or whatever, but let's just say 50 for simple math here. Well then, there you go. You've increased that item 50%. Now you got a $15 item down from 10. It cost us more. Who's going to pay for that? We are, right? You want to buy that $10 item, it now costs you 15, right? If the American consumer was meant to buy that, well then the American consumer is going to buy that item at a higher price, right? And you're talking about increasing the price with a tariff on top of a weaker currency. Those two reasons I see as a bad reason to have Trump in office. Now, however, Trump, I believe he's a businessman, so I believe if somebody was to explain this or if he saw what's going on, he could be persuaded to do the right thing, right? That's why he'd get my vote. I'm scared that he would not, but I think of the three left standing, he'd be the one to actually see the problem and try to do the right thing, right? I think he sees the problems there, but doesn't have the right solutions. Now, when it comes down to Sanders, I believe him to be genuine in his beliefs, but I don't believe those beliefs ever worked, right? You look at Venezuela, socialist nation, right? Eating cats and dogs, each other's pets, birds and squirrels. That's socialism. The government controls everything, right? Total government oversight. That's what they want, right? And if you say, well, they vote, they're not social, they're not we're not socialists here, we get to vote. Well, in the USSR, those guys, they always got to vote for who was in charge of them, ruled them. What dictator was on top of them as well, so that didn't really mean much. If you look at, let's say Cuba, man, do people get on life rafts with a little bit of food and water to get into Cuba or get out of that, right? You talk to Cubans, man, they hate Castro, right? They hate that dude. They don't want to be there. If they get on a life raft or just basically floating shacks, a little bit of food, a little bit of water, and take their chances on the ocean that they don't die to get out of there, right? And then what is it? Talking about Sweden, that's the new example where you get free this and free that, free health care. The only thing is they got like an 80-something% tax. So, you're losing 80% of your income, that ain't going to work. Look at what's going on with Obamacare. There's insurance companies dropping out left and right because the prices are going up. And you have, the premiums are going to go up because they have to. Socialism doesn't work. We started out as socialist, right? The U.S., pilgrims come over. It was going to be basically, the Marxist view, I guess, where each according to their ability, each according to their need. You're supposed to work as hard as you could for the good of the whole, and then you take what you needed, as much as you needed, but no more, which doesn't work. I saw two good examples of this. There was an example where people went, and it was an interviewer went to, it was a high school, and went to students with high GPAs and asked them what they thought about just making it class average, right? Everybody in that grade gets an overall average grade. And the students with a very high GPA were against it. The students with very low GPAs were for it, right? Yes, the students with a high GPA, why are they against it? Because they worked hard for those grades, right? They worked hard, they struggled, they studied, right, for those grades. And the guys that just bailed all the time didn't. So they were okay with getting a grade increase for doing nothing. They were all for it. And there were more people with lower grades that had 4.0s. Another one was I saw Adam Crowder do one. Crowder, he had a little setup in a station wagon, I think, or SUV or something. And he had, it was for Halloween, for kids. The kids would come up, some had big bags of candy and some had just very little. And he pretended to take candy from the kid with a big bag of candy and give it to the guy with a little bit to make it fair. And the kids would argue that they were out way before the other kid to get that candy. They earned that candy. It's their candy because they were out trick-or-treating before the other. The kids saw it. Now, you see it like that, it makes sense. When you don't see it like that, well, then at a larger scale, people tend to forget. But we get here, we start at the U.S., and nobody wanted to work. Decided, hey, why work my butt off if I'm going to just get a fair, equal portion of this? People work less, and that led to starvation. It was finally when they decided to break things up, and you get to keep what you grew. Then, 3 years later, we had a surplus, and we're exporting, right? You're a lot more likely to work when you get to keep what you work for. And healthcare, well, if somebody else is paying the bill, why would people worry about their health? That's the way it works. If you got to deal with your own consequences, you're going to be more careful. Not that some people, there's some conditions that are beyond your control, but that creates a moral hazard for the stuff that is in control. People that think that's great, in Canada, they have free healthcare. Yeah, some parts it's great. Other parts, well then, you have to win the lottery to see the doctor. Look that up. Canadian Medical Lottery. All right? They don't tell you that part. Now, so socialism never works. I believe that Sanders is genuine in his beliefs, but I don't think it'll ever work. Right? The Soviet Union, that crashed, they were, socialist, government ran everything, everything was equal. Nothing was produced. Government can't do jack shit. Right? So it never works. It always fails, and that's why I'm not for Sanders. Clinton, I believe she is crooked as they come. Right? If you go back, look into Clinton being fired for lying and unethical behavior when she was a lawyer during the Watergate scandal. Right? She's been a liar forever. And I don't think anything's changed. Benghazi, 4 people were killed. Can we let that go? Wait, 4 people were killed. Right? She lied about it. Had herself took out of photos. They were asking for help, and they ignore them. And it was over some bullshit video. Hell no. The truth comes out. She don't like that. Right? You go into these latest scandal. The Clinton Foundation, it goes to friends. Oh, we got a lot of friends. Yeah. $2 million to your friends? Huh. Getting paid $250,000 for speeches when you really believe in education? My ass. You look at what's going on with the email scandals. She said she didn't get anything that was labeled top secret. From my understanding, there were like a dozen, 14, something like that, people that have clearance levels that high. So you're talking, no, it wasn't top secret. It was way, way, way beyond top secret, right? You're talking about elementary school to college, right? Top secret here. Her level up here. Yeah, it wasn't top secret. It was way, way over that. And still, risking national security there. Why? She don't care. Like Teflon, nothing sticks to her. Right? That's why she's not getting my vote. Right? And they want to pretend like everything's great. 4 more years of Obama. Man, the labor participation rate, 62%. The debt has doubled under Obama. Right? Black unemployment, 7% under Bush, 14% under Obama. Look that up, right? You don't believe me? Look that up. Just get people that disagree, look it up. You're watching this video, you have access to Google then. Google it. Google Clinton being fired for lying during Watergate. Right? Long history of lying to get to the top. Work her way up. That's why she ain't getting my vote. So the way I see it, not really for Trump because I'm worried about his solutions. I think they'll cause more harm than good. But I believe that he'd be the one to actually see it and reverse course if he understood. Right? A socialist won't do it, and somebody that's totally crooked and gonna lie and nothing sticks like just like Teflon, they're gonna get away with it. So if it's a close call, I go for Trump. If it's not going to make a difference, if Trump is either totally in the lead or totally trailing, and it doesn't make a difference, then I'll just vote for Gary Johnson, I guess. Not because really I'm for Johnson, just to help the Libertarian Party. Right? That's really the party that of ethics. That's the stuff that you learn in school. Don't take what's not yours. Right? Don't steal. Right? Stuff like that. The basics. You keep what's yours. You can't take what's yours. You can share if you want to. It's good to share. But if you want to keep your own things, that's fine too. Just like that. What you learn, keep your hands to yourself. What you learn in elementary, the simple, basic, good stuff. Right? Don't take what ain't yours. That's really the party of ethics. So, if it didn't make a difference one way or another, I'd help him out. Anyway, that's it for me.